Hey guys, welcome to another quick little chit chat episode of LJ's Garage. Yes, I know, the title kind of says it all, but what LJ? Rental cars? People fart in those, people touch them, people blow their nose and touch the steering wheel, and there's all these stickiness and grossness, and why would I ever want a rental car? Well, hear me out. Let me talk this one through with you guys for a little bit. With so many of the rental car companies, Hertz, Avis, Budget, all of them discussing bankruptcies and what they're going to do with their fleets, I figured it would be a good time. I wanted to do this a little bit earlier, but life got in the way. But I thought this would be kind of a key time to kind of share some of my thoughts on the rental car situation. And if you guys are unfamiliar with rental cars, don't worry, I'll cover a couple things that, are my thoughts. They're not expert opinions or anything like that, but they're pretty darn close. I consider myself, pretty well versed in the topic of rental cars. Considering this guy right here, for 2-3 years, I worked at a rental car company by the name of Fox Rental Car, and they're one of the lower end budget ones. They're not big up there like Enterprise, but they can hold their own in the ring. And from spending some time around the rental car industry, I've learned a couple of things, and I've seen some things that scared me, but then there's some other things that kind of piqued my interest on the world of used rental cars, and if it's really worth spending the money on and taking that gamble on what you're going to get. And is it really a gamble? Those are the things that I plan on covering, so stay tuned. We're going to chit-chat and have some good conversation about this rental car situation. I want to start off with the first thing. If you're unfamiliar, the rental car industry buys 2 million cars a year are purchased by rental car companies. What happens when they're done with them, which is after about a year or two, some companies that are on the cheaper budget end, they'll keep cars for a little bit longer, but on average, let's say a year is about the lifespan of a rental car before it gets sent back into the used car market and then given to a new, better home where it's, away from people who don't really care too much. There's no personal care when it's a rental car, because guess what? It's not your own. And that's kind of where the thrill comes in, but also when you're buying one used, that's where the worries come through, because some of you may know some people who get in a car and the first thing that they want to do is put their foot down on the gas, slam on the brake, gas, brake, and that's just how they drive. Is it a bad thing for the car? Yeah, you don't want to abuse a car like that, especially when it's not warm, but most cars can handle things like that, so it's not the end of the world if someone does drive like that. One thing I did learn from my time with rental cars as well is that they do get serviced quite regularly, and it depends on each specific location how well they are with maintaining their fleet. And I know for us at Fox, if you guys ever came through Salt Lake City, you may have passed by me. With us, I know that every 6,000 miles, 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles, whatever it was recommended for that manufacturer's specific car, the oil changes were pretty much on point. During the busy seasons, I'll tell you guys this much. Let's say, it's winter in Utah. We get an SUV, we got our Cherokees back in, and we have someone that has a reservation for a Cherokee, but this Cherokee never got its oil change, and so it's technically not ready, and our system flags it and puts a hold on it. But what happens is, sometimes you need that vehicle right away, and you know that they're going to be back in 2 days. You ask them how far they're going to drive, and they'll say, 100 miles. And you're like, okay, you only need the car for 100 miles? Well, you go ahead and you do some keyboard typing stuff, and you release the hold on that vehicle, and you let it go out for a rental, knowing that it's overdue on an oil change. Well, let's say that person comes back, and now they just decided they want to go on an adventure from Salt Lake City, Utah to Wyoming, and it's a couple hundred miles of stuff, and then next thing you know, they decided to stop at Yellowstone, and now they bring the car back in 2 days, and they've done 2,000 miles. So now you're 2,000 miles over oil change, and what do? Well, that's where things get interesting. It just depends on the car. Some of them are to the T. They come in, if there's enough inventory, that car doesn't leave until it gets its oil change, its tires rotated, all that good stuff. It gets taken into the shop to get all the work and wear and tear items replaced and worked on. But sometimes that doesn't happen. Some cars get left behind. Luxury cars, they don't go out for rentals as often, so sometimes those cars sit on the lot just waiting and waiting and waiting. And if you know anything about cars, you know that sitting and having a car that doesn't get started or moved isn't the best thing. And sometimes those cars sit in the winter, like we have sports cars, the Challengers, the Mustangs. You guys can imagine the abuse that those face. But overall, really, it's just a little bit of gross stuff here and there. We've got cars that come back that smell like the marijuana. And then we have cars that come back where, someone brought their dogs in, or their baby had an explosive diarrhea accident, and it gets cleaned up and people don't know any different. Or sometimes people take their cars to go party down in Vegas and they come back and, you know, one hot summer day you turn on the air conditioner and then you remember that someone blew chunks in that car. So, you know, it's really no different than the used car market as a whole, but you just got to remember, some people care about their cars, some people don't. And one thing I've always learned is some of us were raised that whenever you borrow something, you bring it back better than you found it. Doesn't always apply to rental cars. And that's really kind of my big thing with it, is it is a gamble. But for the most part, the majority of people aren't animals. They're not going to get in a car and beat the crap out of it. They're not going to steal the wheels off of it and put it on their Impala and then bring this one back to the dealership or to the, you know, rental car lot. Most people have some sort of conscience and they do the right thing for the most part. Another concern I have right now is that a lot of these companies, they're not getting the rentals that they usually do because people aren't traveling as much. So what they're doing is they're lowering the age that it's required to be able to rent a car. So now you have some companies letting 18-year-olds rent. Even though I remember how I was when I was 18, I know that, you know, some people think and feel a little bit differently about, you know, having 18-year-olds just popping in to rent a car and doing whatever, you know, shenanigans they want to get into. But there are some responsible 18-year-olds. So I'll let you guys form your own opinion on what happens when you lower the age required to rent a car. In the grand scheme of everything, how it affects you as a consumer is now you have rental car companies not buying brand new cars, which now they're holding on to their fleet. And now they have all these cars that they were getting ready to sell that they're not going to sell anymore because they're not sure if they're going to make the money to buy new cars. So instead of, you know, 80% of their fleet getting turned over at the end of the year, auto manufacturers give them buyback programs. They've got, you know, lease returns. There's all different programs and contracts that they have written with these agencies to be able to buy and trade and sell cars so that whenever you go to Enterprise, you never have anything less than a couple years old or with more than 40, 50,000 miles on it. And that's on the really high end. Most times, 20,000 miles is all a rental car lives to see, and then it gets passed on to someone else. Last year, Hertz sold 41,000 cars back into the market. So someone, somewhere, you guys, maybe you actually watching this video right now, bought a used car. That was a rental. And I'm sure you've had friends that have bought rental cars. Some people don't even know that they bought an old rental car. And the thing is, you just kind of have to be aware that some are better than others. For me, I know that if you give me a Hyundai Sonata, I love the Sonata. And I would recommend that car to anyone. Buying one that was a former rental, I don't see a problem with that. Not to mention Hyundai's got their warranty. You can get a lot of these cars certified pre-owned, which there isn't really a huge difference between a rental car lot certified pre-owned car and going to a dealership and getting a certified pre-owned. It all depends on mileage, year, and all of that good stuff. They pretty much go through the same rigorous process. A lot of these companies offer rent-to-own programs, so you get a couple days with the car, and if you want it, you can buy it. And a lot of them do money-back guaranteed, like, you know, Enterprise, 7 days, and you can bring the car back. You pay a $200 restocking fee. In that time, take it to the dealership, take it to your favorite mechanic, take it to your friend who you trust with your car, and have them look over it. And most of these cars that are built nowadays, they're pretty solid. I mean, Volkswagens, yeah, they had their whole little issue, but you can go pick up a used Jetta with barely any miles on it with a lot of luxury features that you get from German car manufacturers, and you could be proud to own one of those for under $14,000. You got a brand new Jetta, basically. Everything is just kind of starting to back up. So now they're having trouble moving these used cars and new cars off of these lots. So when you come in and now you're saying, hey, I want a car. I don't know if I want to buy new or used. You've got these used cars that are sitting there with, you know, barely 10,000 miles on them, sometimes less, and you've got a brand new car and you have to do the math. Is the savings worth that new car? Because you're going to already lose money, so might as well take advantage. Doesn't mean they're going to give away cars for free, but you could definitely get a deal. And some people who never thought about buying a used car are actually considering it now. The other thing is, on average, most people are like somewhere between 12 to 14,000 miles per year, and that's insurance company data. But on a rental car, they can hit that in a couple months. So it is quick and it's fast, and those cars are on the road, they're moving, they're grooving, they're doing their thing, they're getting farted in. It's not a big deal because cars are meant to be driven. And if you're buying a car at under $15,000, a rental car is hard to beat when you're looking at cars on Craigslist or, you know, your used car lot, you don't know what you're going to get, but at least you know that the oil changes were hopefully done on time, 90% of the time I would even say. And you know that those cars, if you get them certified, man, that's a pretty sweet deal. One of the last things I want to point out is that some used cars are just better than others. Again, the Hyundai Sonata, solid used car. Easy to maintain, very reliable. Luxury cars, SUVs, you know, 4x4s, things like that that are special, you know, high-end categories for rental car companies. That's where you really can save a lot, but that's where you can really get yourself in a lot of trouble. So you got to be careful with those rear-wheel drive ones that may be in cold climates that didn't get driven at all during the winter months, because people come in and they don't want a sports car or a rear-wheel drive car in the winter. They might have let that car sit, or they move some of these cars to their overflow lot, which exists. And if those cars aren't moved very often, now you have cars that are sitting and then they get brought out, they get abused, and they brought back, they sit, and you might uncover some problems that you didn't really want to deal with. Another little hiccup is that the auctions were closed for a little while and cars just weren't going for what they were going for back in the day on auction. And I say back in the day as if I'm some old guy. Back in the day as in like before Corona. Man, it's going to be weird in a few years when we look back at all this and say, yeah, that coronavirus, it shook up the world. It changed a lot. And I'm not saying for everyone to go buy a car right now, because that is not at all the advice I'm giving you. But I just want everyone to be educated on this stuff and look into it, consider it. Don't be afraid of rental cars because you have a friend who beats the crap out of theirs every time they get one, because not everyone drives like that. Honestly, it's really hard to drive like that. I don't know, maybe when I was 19, I think I could drive like that. Just gas, brake, gas, brake, gas, brake, you know, living life like that. But at this point, I don't drive like that. You know, I see a green light, I ease into it, I go. Someone pulls up next to me, they want to race, I give them the sauce, I give them the gas, and then I go back to cruising, turn off sport mode, and just chill. Most of us are like that. We don't just hammer it, get off of it, hammer it, get off of it. And I don't really have a whole lot to say other than that, but if you guys have any thoughts, questions, concerns, be sure to drop them below. If you've bought a rental car and have an experience to share, please let me know. Let me know how crazy and far-fetched I am. But I know a lot of people that have taken advantage of these sweet deals and bought a RAV4 or bought something cool. Think with your wallet sometimes, and if you get a good deal, it might actually work out. And really, just take care of your cars. That's the moral of the story. Don't abuse rental cars. And hopefully the world gets back to a better place and we can all stay healthy and happy and all those good stuff. So make sure you guys are doing your part. Thank you again for checking out yet another video in LJ's Garage. Be sure to hit that like button, comment button, subscribe button, all that good stuff. And I will see you the next time I decide to have a chit chat with you guys, which is going to be soon. I'm back.